Hello friends. In this brief introductory video, I am trying to give a review of the rich content which we propose to make it available during these 3 days of IDPS 2022. As some of you are aware, FDPPI started its activities in September 2018, and in 2020 November, we had our first conference like what we are having today, and we called it as IDPS 2020, Indian Data Protection Summit 2020. That was a 2 days conference, again a virtual conference. Then in 2021, we had the second version, which was a full 3 days conference with 18 hours of content. And this year, again, we are having 3 full days of conference, which will be 18 hours of real-time discussions, plus several more hours of content in the pre-recorded section of the seminar. So totally, we expect that we will be able to bring out a very large amount of information related to data protection in India. And we hope that it will be found useful by all the practitioners of data protection. Just to give you a bird's eye view, we have 3 days of the conference, and we are starting from 2 o'clock Indian Standard Time in the afternoon and going up to 8 p.m. on each of these days. The recorded versions will be available 24 hours. So it will be available when you log into the conference platform and go into the section where repositories are available. The live content will be available at a particular time, and probably we'll be able to shift the content to recorded version as soon as is feasible, probably on the following day. The program will start on November 11th, which is a Friday. It is a holiday in some of the places like Karnataka, but may not be in other places, so it's a working day. We will start it with an inaugural session in which our special guest will be Mr. Rakesh Maheshwari, Senior Director of the Ministry of Information Technology. And we will have a formal introduction of FDPPI as well as the program by one of the directors of FDPPI. After this, the first technical session will follow, and that will be a keynote address by Mr. Vinayak Godse, CEO of Data Security Council of India, and he will be speaking on catching up with the global community on data protection. We are not fully aware of the status of Indian law as it is emerging. We call this conference The Shape of Things to Come because we wanted to actually present to the community what should be the kind of law which should be ushered in. And in the meantime, there was also a possibility that the government may release a draft law, which has not happened till now. So we will, of course, present our thoughts on the shape of things to come. And that will start with these 2 sessions. One, Rakesh Maheshwari, who will perhaps give us a summary of what is the current status of data protection law legislation in India. And Mr. Vinayak Godse, who is a person who has been in this field for quite some time, will perhaps be able to give us a little more insight into where India is heading, in the sense that the global community, more than 100 and odd countries are having data protection laws. Even small countries around us like Sri Lanka or Pakistan, they have got data protection laws. Only thing is we do not have a separate data protection law, though I have always specified that Information Technology Act after 2008 amendment is itself a reasonably good data protection law in India. So we will hear the views of Mr. Vinayak Godse on how we are trying to catch up with the global community on data protection. This will be followed by a session on CEOs and boards perspective on data governance, and this will be provided by Mr. Nanda Mohan Shanai, Director, CEO, Best Fit Solutions, a very good conference speaker with wide experience in the various industries, including banking. So he will perhaps let us know how the board and top management are responding in India or how they should respond to data protection. Then we will have one panel discussion. It will be moderated by Mr. Rajesh Kumar. The theme of the panel would be changing profile of data protection laws outside India, because we feel that data protection laws are not only happening in India, but also elsewhere, including say in UK and several countries of the Western world, states of USA, including even Canada, some provinces. There are various new provisions added to the old law. In a way, people are thinking that whatever they followed earlier, either they blindly followed GDPR and now they want to make further improvements on that. But there is a wave of rethinking going on in the world, and perhaps everywhere the law is getting improved. So India is actually making its law now, and probably they can bring in certain improvements which others are now bringing out as, let us say, amendments to their earlier law. So we will discuss this aspect in this panel discussion, and we hope we will be able to catch up with the international developments. Then we will briefly discuss about the shape of things to come in India as we foresee, in a sense, how we expect that the laws should be framed in terms of defining the privacy as a right, defining the data, and then going ahead with whatever changes which are required to be brought in the Indian context. I will be handling that session. The second day will start with a keynote session from Mr. Srinivas Pusarla, Chief Privacy Officer and DPO worldwide of Infosys. And he is going to talk about artificial intelligence, whether it is a boon or bane for privacy. So artificial intelligence is a technology subject, but it has also got plenty of, impact on the privacy side. So we will listen to Srinivas Pusarla on the ethics of artificial intelligence. This will be followed by a session from Mr. Vamsi Krishna Varangatti, who will speak about the automation of data security process, probably how software can be used for automating the security process. And as you know that we in FDPPI have also introduced the online DTS mechanism. So probably Mr. Vamsi Krishna will be speaking on how we can automate both the security and also the privacy compliance requirements. Then we will be having a panel led by Mr. Manish Sehgal of Deloitte. And this panel will discuss privacy in corporate DNA, basically looking at the corporate culture, how to build a privacy culture in a corporate environment and how to build it into the DNA. So we have some very powerful speakers here, and we will be listening to their views. So along with the first day's discussion or keynote from Nanda Kumar Shanai, we will be discussing here the corporate requirements on developing the privacy infrastructure in a corporate entity. Then we will be having Mr. Pawan Dugal, who is a well-known cyber law specialist internationally. And he will be speaking about the metaverse era and how privacy is getting impacted in this new technology called metaverse. Then we will have another panel discussion, which will address another GDPR issue, apart from the modifications in the international law, which we discuss on day one. We will discuss the issue related to cross-border transfer of personal data. Mr. Ganapathy Subramaniam will head this panel. We will perhaps discuss the issues of adequacy, the issues of standard contractual clauses, and how the corporates have to respond to the new Schrems to judgment-related guidelines from EDPB, which will affect a lot of data importers in India. As you are aware that in Ujjwala Consultants, we have actually created a sort of a certification program for data importers who will be importing data from EU in a manner in which some assurance can be provided to the data exporters. Of course, we will be considering the legal scenario in India, but we will be looking at recommending certain technology safeguards, including pseudonymization and secure transmission of data. And based on that, Ujjwala is actually looking at providing a kind of a support to the Indian data importers. And maybe the issues which lead to such a requirement would be discussed by this panel. Then this will be followed by Mr. Vinay Krishna, founder CEO of Ledger IT Solutions, who will be discussing on securing privacy in emerging technology scenario. And Mr. Vinay Krishna is an entrepreneur. He has a UAE-based operations of a company, and they are into some very innovative email service. And Mr. Vinay Krishna will perhaps be discussing how we can secure the email communication, which is one of the most important way we communicate on the internet, which is exposed to certain fundamental risks associated with the SMTP protocol itself. Then we will be having Commander Mukesh Saini, and he will be addressing on continued relevance of ITA 2000 in privacy protection. Mr. Saini will perhaps explain to us that ITA 2000 still exists and will continue to exist until this new data protection law will be notified. And in the meantime, Section 43 capital A will remain. Certain guidelines will continue to be effective on companies. And in anticipation of the new law and looking at the world scenario of GDPR and others, Indian companies should not neglect to see that there is some law in India already related to privacy. And perhaps Mukesh, who is a veteran in this field, will explain to us the relevance of ITA 2000. Then we will be having a panel. This panel will be on emerging technologies and challenges. So Dr. Anirban Ghosh will be leading these discussions, and perhaps we will be looking at new technologies like blockchain, metaverse, maybe artificial intelligence itself, how they impact the data protection scenario. And hope we will be having an in-depth discussion on the technology issues. That will be the last session on day 2. Then day 3, we will start with a keynote from Dr. Prashant Mali, advocate, and he will be discussing on adjudication appellate tribunals for data protection, need for innovation. We all know that the Government of India recently notified a grievance redressal committee for the intermediaries dispute resolution. And in every law in the country, dispute resolution has been given a important place, and the government in its lawmaking is trying to introduce alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. And probably Dr. Prashant Mali will discuss how in the data protection scenario also there is, of course, a need for dispute resolution in a manner in which the public will have the convenience. In fact, the latest grievance appellate committee, which will address the disputes arising out of the intermediaries regulations, has mandated that the appellate committee will have online dispute resolution mechanism to be used. And therefore, it is becoming the order of the cyber world for having online dispute resolutions. Perhaps Dr. Mali will discuss something around that. This keynote will be followed by another keynote address from Dr. Srinivas Namandra, who is associated with the Paytm, and he will be discussing on ethical and privacy issues in AI applications. And we all know that the fintech industry is one where a lot of profiling of data principles is done. So let us hear from Dr. Srinivas about the ethical issues, how they are tackled by the organizations. Then we will have a data monetization panel discussion. Subrayadu will be leading the discussions here, and we will be discussing not only the data monetization, which is associated with the valuation of data, and also the emergence of new types of assets like the NFTs, the cryptocurrencies, how they in a way either support privacy or otherwise. We know that the Government of India has come up with its own CBDC, the central bank's digital currency. Whether that will be promoting privacy of the holding of CBDCs in a manner which is different from the way today virtual currencies or virtual balances are held by people. These are the things perhaps which this particular panel will discuss. Then we'll be having a brief session on emergence of neuro rights as a concept. In fact, this is an area which the privacy rights activists will have to move on to, because currently we look at privacy rights as a right of choice, and that right of choice itself is to some extent undermined by the invasion of the human brain by the new neuroscience technologies. Whether this will necessitate the recognition of neuro rights as something which is different from the current privacy rights, or as an extension of the privacy rights, we need to discuss. So this is perhaps for the first time in India that the topic of neuro rights is coming up for a discussion in a major conference like this. And we are happy to introduce this concept and bring it to the discussion table. And probably FDPPA will be focusing on many more discussions on neuro rights as we go ahead. Following this, we will have one panel discussion on data audit frameworks existing and emerging, where Ramesh Venkatraman will lead the panel and discuss the current frameworks, ISO 27001 and others, and how they actually fall short of perhaps the requirements of the privacy, and whether 27701 has improved the situation, and whether there is scope for something else to come up. And in the process, perhaps we will also be introducing the Data Protection Compliance Management System, DPCMS, and the Data Protection Compliance Standard of India, which FDPPI is supporting for audit and certification. So these aspects will present to the professionals how we can approach the compliance, both for implementation within the companies as well as for auditors to actually go out and audit. Then we will be having one keynote from Mr. Harpreet Singh Bhatia, CEO of Ibentos, and he will discuss the online interactions, how they are changing through emerging technologies. There was a time when these conferences of this kind were happening only in a hotel where physically we were meeting 100, 200 persons, and they had to sit through for the whole day. Now, due to the revelations in the COVID, the online conferencing actually took, became popular. And now we are in a situation where we have the option of either an online conference or an offline conference. And perhaps people like us sometimes prefer the online interaction much more, because we can very easily bring into the table speakers from abroad, which we would not have been otherwise able to do if it was a physical conference. So logistics appears very favorable for online kind of interactions. Now, in future, we do not know whether this will further evolve into a metaverse-led kind of platform, and we need to hear from experts in the line like Mr. Singh, who is the CEO of Ibentos platform, on which we are actually hosting this particular conference. Then we will be having the panel discussion, which will be on flexibility in the privacy law to meet sectoral challenges. Mr. Radha Ramanan will be leading the panel, and we will be discussing here how across the sector privacy law, like the GDPR and like what we are proposing in India, compare with the approach which USA originally started as sectoral privacy laws. But even USA is now slowly going into this across the sector law. But of course, they are still more in the realms of consumer protection, though a federal US privacy law is being contemplated. So in India, we already have RBI, TRAI, and IRDAI having their own privacy prescriptions. In fact, the Ministry of Health has got very strong prescriptions on EHR guidelines. So there are already sectoral regulations on privacy in place in India. And now when this new law comes, immediately we will realize that there could be conflicts between the regulators, because a new regulator will come up here, and then the existing regulators will need to actually work along with them. Hopefully, we know that they are all professionals and they will resolve their issues. But in terms of the detailing of the compliance requirements, there will always be some kind of, questions raised on whether this omnibus law will be good enough or will be ideal for all sorts of companies in different industries and also different levels of the industry. So this one law for everybody could come in for some kind of a debate, and whether flexibility would be there in the law, and that flexibility can be introduced through sectoral codes of practice, which FDPPI is trying to push through. We have been in touch with various industries to say that we will try to develop the sectoral codes of practice and then take it to the Data Protection Authority as and when they are available, so that small entities, medium scale industries may not be inconvenienced by the law which is actually created having the large companies in mind. Though the law will, of course, distinguish between data fiduciaries and significant data fiduciaries and try to make some provisions applicable only for significant data fiduciaries, not for others, there is a possibility that if we paint all kinds of industries with the same brush, probably there will be some inefficiency in the implementation. So these kind of things will come in for discussion during this panel discussions, and we will perhaps take it further later on as an FDPPI's initiative to develop sectoral codes of practice. We actually introduced this 6 months back when we had a conference in Chennai on MMA, and perhaps we need to do more now with the involvement of the industry representatives. After this, of course, we will have the valedictory session in which we will have another very highly respected motivational speaker, Dr. Anantaprabhu, who is a technology expert, a professor in technology, and at the same time, he is a great speaker who can put across his ideas. And we will be perhaps listening to him on the new developments in the kind of cyber crimes and risks which are coming up in the world, and how the privacy and data protection professionals need to respond. So with this, we can say that there are about 7 panel discussions and about 10 say keynote sessions, and we will be discussing several things, including the GDPR and international data protection laws, the Indian data protection laws, current and as they are emerging, plus a lot of things on the technology, how it is impacting the privacy, some governance issues like the managerial requirements and so on. So overall, this will be a very comprehensive package of discussions. We also in this program enabled a repositories section where several pre-recorded video contributions from various professionals would be available for the people to view. Some of these are actually as good or even better than some of the live sessions which we have planned, but for various reasons we had a limitation of 18 hours or 6 hours per day as a live session. So we had to actually create some additional content on the pre-recorded mode. And we also wanted to make some content available for persons coming from time zones other than this 2 to 8 convenient time zones. And therefore, we have actually placed a number of very good video content in the pre-recorded versions. And for example, there is a discussion on the banking industry conducted by DSI. There is discussion on data protection planning in a corporate entity, and several other short and medium 1 hour panel discussions available in this pre-recorded version. So together there will be a very, very rich content available, and it surprises many that we are making all this content available free of charge. But that is the philosophy of FDPPI, that we need to actually contribute to the community, and this is the only way we know how to contribute to the community. That is, we bring the knowledge at no cost to the community. It is left to the audience to make the best use of it. Everybody has got some kind of an activity going on, so probably there will be time constraints, but I hope that both for your own knowledge enrichment kind of requirement and as a support to our activity, you would take the trouble of attending as many sessions as possible. And we are also trying to incentivize the attendance so that in all the technical sessions, we may have a special lucky draw for the participants, and then give some kind of a token, say, gift to the people. Between this content discussions on the evening session of day 1, we are going to have a special session on distribution of some awards. See, last year we introduced the concept of awards as privacy champion. In fact, Mr. Srinivas Pusarla of Infosys was the chosen person last year as the privacy champion. And this year, we actually expanded this award concept, and we have introduced actually multiple types of awards, like the individual awards, a team award, a corporate award, and we also have some very special nomination awards also, so that we are encouraging people from the community to give more attention to privacy and data protection. And that award function will be there on the day 1 in the last session. And the award committee will discuss who are the shortlisted persons and who are the winners of the awards. So this is the entire package which is coming as IDPS 2022. We hope all of you will enjoy it, and perhaps will ensure that not only you attend the different sessions, but also invite your friends and colleagues to attend different sessions so that overall the benefit reaches the community. Thank you.